Ladies and gentlemen, I am Coach Gene Clemens and I have a giant issue. Um yes, the Giants lost. The Giants lost. And quite honestly, it was a game they deserved to lose. They didn't make enough plays. There were turnovers, um, things that just don't lend itself to winning games the way that the Giants have been winning games. So I think that at this point, since we're about to get to the bye week, it is important for us to sit back and be fair and honest about where we are within this season. And I think that's a big issue that I have seen with Giants fans and with people who cover the Giants is that there doesn't seem to be this need to be fair and honest. And whenever I don't see something happening, I like to make sure that I'm the one that tries to give give you the fair and honest look at things. Um, Number one, you're playing with house money, Giants fans. You're playing with house money. Nobody expected the Giants to be anywhere near good this year. So, however good they are, or however good they end up being, don't look at it in any other way of as in this season was supposed to be a wash. This is a season to clean up the cap. This is a season to infuse young talent. This is a season to figure out the dynamics of the talent that the team already has. All of those things are happening. All of those things are happening. And so it won't be surprising in the offseason when these moves are made. Some of the things that we've seen. Yes, this defense is better when Leonard Williams is on the field. But this defense can still function without Leonard Williams being on the field. Another thing that we've seen, we have athletic linebackers, but we don't always have linebackers that make reads and fill holes at the level that you want the elite level linebackers to make. So either they need to improve or the Giants may need to seek to improve the position. Not necessarily with an old veteran, because I don't think that's the route that they need to be going at this point, but they may need to improve and add more depth and possibly even someone to usurp the guys who are there right now going into next year. I think we can safely say that the defensive backfield needs help, especially at the cornerback position. Adoree Jackson has had to shoulder a lot of the load at cornerback. He's good, but he's not what they had. And the guy that they had is having an all-pro season over in Philadelphia right now. And that makes it even more glaring of a need. Cordell Flott, we don't know what he is because he's been hurt, but that's probably a sign that he's not the guy. So that will need to be addressed either in free agency or in the draft. As far as the offensive line goes, I think that Evan Neal will be okay. He has no other choice but to be okay. He's a top 10 overall draft pick. You have to be okay. And once he comes back from injury, I think he'll be better. The question will be is what do the guys inside turn into? I think there's no doubt about it. Center needs to be addressed in the offseason. Like this idea that Nick Gates is going to come back and be the center. Y'all got to stop that. Nick Gates is never going to be the Nick Gates of old. He's not. And it's okay. Like he had a really, really bad injury. It's not his fault. This is not a diss against Nick Gates. But you have to upgrade that position to someone that you see being a part of this team for the long term, not just in the short term, not just for the next year, but for the next 5 to 10 plus years. That's who you have to start identifying. Those guys are going to be available in the draft. Those guys might be available in free agency. because of the nature of the NFL. But you got to find somebody. You got to find someone to solidify the middle of that defense. I think you have enough talented pieces around that it's not necessarily a thing to try to grab a guard early in the draft, first round, second round. But I also think that there'll be enough depth that you could find a rookie guard in the draft, maybe in the third, fourth round, that could still be a starter for you. Same thing with a center. You don't necessarily have to identify one in the first round, but second round, third round, you probably want to be looking center if you don't address it through free agency. Now, for the big ones, right? I think it's safe to say that Kayvon Thibodeaux is going to be okay. He just has a motor about him. He's going to get stronger. He's going to get bigger. Now that he's in the NFL, he's going to be okay. Lawrence is a guy who is an all-pro. He's proven it this year. You got some other Azeez. It's unfortunate what happened, but you know what he can do when he's healthy. So those things are you're still probably going to have to look to add more pieces on that defensive line just because depth is now the name of the game, right? Talent and depth. One of the other things that I believe people are going to have to look at is what do we do offensively in the skill positions, right? Because if you're telling me that, in Daniel Jones is a guy that we've got to give another look to, which I don't agree with, by the way, because I just don't think the money is right, and I don't think the production value is where the money is going to have to be. I don't think he's taking hey, re-sign me for $10 million as your starting quarterback type of deal. I don't think that's what he's going to get. I don't think that's what he would agree to. And I don't see paying him $20 million a year. Like for that, no, absolutely not. So that's going to be the issue. Do you now go back into the draft with all of these talented quarterbacks that presumably are going to come out and that you may be in a position somewhere in the first round to be able to address that need? What do? I think you got to go. But if you don't go and you have to address the skill position, there are no guarantees at wide receiver. Like, there are no, you add this guy immediately out of the draft and he makes you better. You probably need to go into free agency and get lucky and find someone that's not damaged goods. Like, unfortunately, you bought a lemon with Golladay, and this isn't Galladay's fault. They brought Golladay in when Golladay was coming off injury. So then Golladay got injured again, and now this year he's injured again. Production sometimes just has to do with not being healthy, and that's who he is right now. He's just not a healthy football player. So, yeah, the contract looks bad. Yeah, the production has been slow, but a lot of that is not on him. A lot of that is just on his body failing him. But the Giants should have thought about that before they brought him in. You really need to add someone almost like Buffalo added when they were able to get Diggs from Minnesota. When they were able to get Diggs from Minnesota, they added a legitimate one in the prime of his career, they're able to go with their young quarterback. Like, you have to upgrade the wide receiver group, not because there's not talent there. I think that y'all are I think it's hilarious that when Daniel Jones does well, people go, oh, look at Daniel Jones. When Daniel Jones doesn't do well, they go, well, look who he's throwing to. Well, can he elevate him or can he not elevate him? Because when he's doing well, you guys are like, oh, well, Daniel Jones is the man. And then when it doesn't go well, you're like, oh, well, Daniel Jones is the man, but it can't be both ways. You can't keep telling me, oh, well, Sean and or Shane and Dable are going to play the best receivers, and then go, well, the receivers that they got out there are like 3s and 4s. Like, no, they're playing the best receivers. So, like, you can't have that both ways. Is he doing well or is he not doing well? It's okay to say he's not doing well when he's not doing well. He didn't have a great game. I mean, that's just simple as plain. He did not have a great game. And if he's not playing more like DeAndre Jones, if he's playing like Daniel and not playing like DeAndre, then or Danny, then he's not going to be effective. He needs to be effective with his legs in order to be effective with his arm. It's clear to me. His legs have to be a part of the package. It doesn't make him less of a quarterback to use his legs. His legs have to be a part of the package. And if his legs are not a part of the package, then he does not do as well. The Giants lost this game to Seattle in the very manner that they've been winning games. That is an unsustainable model. It's an unsustainable model. You can't just keep it close, and continue to win. That's what the Tennessee Titans are running into. This is very similar to the way the Titans were winning games back in the last few years when they've made their run. But that is not a sustainable model, because as soon as someone gets hurt, as soon as there's a piece out, everything goes. Saquon is having a fantastic season. The Giants must re-sign Saquon. He is priority number one. Now, how you re-sign him is up to you guys. Franchise tag him, cool. Like, give him a short contract where you front load it, cool. But whatever you do, that guy cannot leave. The last thing you want to see is Saquon Barkley with Dallas, Saquon Barkley with Philly, Saquon Barkley in Washington, Saquon Barkley in Baltimore, Saquon Barkley in Tampa Bay. Like, the last thing you want to see is Saquon Barkley doing what he's doing for the Giants in a better situation where the offense is already kind of built around the success. You don't want to see that. You don't want to see him fall into one of those things. Absolutely not. You got to re-sign him. What else does this man have to prove? People said he fell off from the previous season. Guess what? He didn't. He's still him. And since he's still him, you got to pay him. But again, everything, ladies and gentlemen, everything that's happened to the Giants, you should feel good about. Even these losses, because the losses exposes the things that need to be improved. It doesn't keep putting the winning veil over them. But it's going to be really hard for the Giants to not make. It's going to take a second half collapse for the Giants to not make the playoffs. And if there is a second half collapse, don't even be mad, because the games that you won in the first half, they were all those razor thin margins when everything went your way and it didn't go the other team's way. That pendulum eventually swings, and the regression to the mean is what happened. Let's just hope that the mean is not so low that you lose 7-8 games in a row, or that you lose 5 out of the next 8. Because if you go 500 the rest of the way, ladies and gentlemen, the Giants are going to the playoffs. And while this is a rebuilding year and this is a year to like kind of clean everything up, it's okay to do that and still make the playoffs. That does not mean that you now owe anything to these players that you're already paying outside of Saquon Barkley. Anyway, that's my issue for today, ladies and gentlemen. I am looking forward to the bye week. Make sure you check out all of my stuff on Giants Country. That's coming up. Make sure that you check me out here. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, I'm Coach Gene Clemens. I've got a giant issue.